Ladies and gentlemen, I am Lady Lilith, and welcome to Eerie Embers. The Rendlesham Forest. The Rendlesham Forest incident refers to a series of reported sightings of unexplained lights near Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England, during December 1980. These events occurred in close proximity to RAF Woodbridge, which was being used by the United States Air Force, the USAF, at the time. Personnel from the USAF, including Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, reported the phenomena they described as a UFO, unidentified flying object. Rendlesham Forest, owned by the Forestry Commission, spans approximately 5.8 square miles, 15 kilometres squared, of coniferous plantations interspersed with broad-leaved belts, heathland and wetland areas. Located in Suffolk, about 8 miles east of Ipswich, this event occurred near two former military bases, RAF Bentwaters, just north of the forest, and RAF Woodbridge, which extends into the forest from the west and is bordered by the forest on its northern and eastern edges. The focal events of the incident unfolded within Rendlesham Forest, beginning approximately 0.3 miles, 0.5 of a kilometre, east of the east gate of RAF Woodbridge. It was here that the security guards first observed the perplexing lights seemingly descending into the dense woodland. The forest stretches eastward for about 1 mile, or 1.6 kilometre, beyond the east gate, terminating at a farmer's field known as Capel Green. The events that transpired in this woodland gained the attention due to the involvement of military personnel and the proximity into a NATO airbase, sparking speculation and debate about the nature of the sightings. Witnesses claim to have observed strange lights descending into the forest, encountering unusual objects on the ground, and experiencing other phenomena over a series of nights. The UK Ministry of Defence has stated that the Rendlesham Forest incident posed no threat to national security, and therefore it was never investigated as a security matter. Skeptics have offered various explanations for the sightings, suggesting that they were a misinterpretation of a series of nocturnal lights, a fireball, the Orfordness Lighthouse, or some bright stars. The incident has also been subject to much speculation, investigation, and debate. Some believe it to be the most significant UFO event in history, whilst others suggest a more mundane explanation, such as misidentified natural phenomena, man-made objects, or even hoaxes. Proponents of the skeptical will argue that the initial light seen by the USAF personnel could have been a meteor or a fireball entering the Earth's atmosphere, which can appear very bright and move rapidly. The Orfordness Lighthouse, which was operational at the time, emitted a powerful beam of light that could have been mistaken for a UFO, especially when seen through trees in the forest. Additionally, bright stars and planets, particularly under certain atmospheric conditions, can appear to move or flicker, further contributing to the confusion. Despite extensive investigations, the true nature of the incident remains unexplained, and is one of the most famous of alleged UFO events to have happened in the United Kingdom. It is among the best known reported UFO events worldwide, and it has even been compared to the Roswell UFO incident in the United States. Sometimes it is referred as Britain's Roswell. Despite these explanations, the Rendlesham Forest incident continues to be a topic of interest and debate among UFO enthusiasts and researchers. The combination of multiple witness accounts, physical evidence such as landing marks, and higher than normal radiation readings, and the involvement of military personnel has kept the case in the public eye for over 4 decades. The incident began in the early hours of the 26th of December 1980, when security patrols near the east gate of RAF Woodbridge saw unusual lights in the forest. They initially thought it might be a downed aircraft. As they investigated, they reported seeing a glowing object, metallic in appearance, with coloured lights. The object appeared to move through the trees and then quickly ascend into the sky. Over the next few nights, similar sightings occurred. On the 28th of December 1980, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt led a team into the forest to investigate further. Holt recorded his observations on a tape recorder, documenting strange lights, radiation readings, and the movement of objects in the sky. His report, known as the Holt Memo, was sent to the Ministry of Defence and has since become a key piece of evidence in the case. At the time of the incident in December 1980, both bases were under the control of the United States Air Force. The bases were commanded by Wing Commander Colonel Gordon E. Williams, with Colonel Ted Conrad serving as a base commander and Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt as his deputy. It was Lieutenant Colonel Holt who became one of the key witnesses to the alleged UFO sightings due to documenting all of his experiences. In the early hours of the 26th of December 1980, around 3 a.m, a security patrol near the east gate of RAF Woodbridge was startled by eerie lights descending into the shadowy depths of the Rendlesham Forest. These mysterious lights, later explained by astronomers as a meteor burning up over southern England, initially seemed like a fiery wreckage of a downed aircraft. According to Holt's memo, the patrol ventured into the forest. Their flashlights were flickering in the dark. There, they encountered a glowing object, its metallic surface pulsating with unearthly coloured lights. As they drew closer, the object seemed to glide through the trees, casting long and dancing shadows. The silence of the night was shattered as the animals on the nearby farm went into a frenzied panic, their cries echoing through the forest. One of the servicemen, Sergeant Jim Peniston, claimed to have faced a craft of unknown origin in the heart of the forest. Though his account was not publicised at the time and remains uncorroborated by others, the chilling encounter left a lasting impression. The forest, once peaceful, now held an air of unease, as if it had witnessed something otherworldly that cold December night. Shortly after 4 a.m, local police responded to the scene, alerted by the commotion in the Rendlesham Forest. However, upon arrival, they reported seeing only the distant sweeping beam of the Orfordness Lighthouse, several miles away on the coastal horizon. Despite their efforts to investigate, they found no signs of the mysterious lights or the unsettling events witnessed earlier by the RAF personnel. The forest lay quiet once more, cloaked in the eerie glow of the lighthouse's beacon, leaving questions unanswered and a sense of unease lingering in the early morning air. After daybreak, on the morning of the 26th of December, the servicemen returned to a small clearing near the eastern edge of the Rendlesham Forest. There they made a startling discovery. 3 small impressions on the ground ranged in a perfect triangular pattern. Nearby trees bore burn marks and broken branches, hinting at a disturbance during the night. By 10:30 a.m, local police were summoned once more, this time to examine the strange impressions. Initially sceptical, they speculated the marks might have been caused by an animal. Despite their attempts to rationalise the scene, the eerie atmosphere persisted, like whispers of something otherworldly lingering among the servicemen and locals alike. On the night of the initial incident, local police reported that the only visible lights were from a distant Orfordness lighthouse. They attributed the unusual indentations found on the ground to possible animal activity. However, the case took a curious turn years later, when the Suffolk Constabulary file, released in 2005 under the UK's Freedom of Information Act, shed new light on the incident. Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt and several servicemen ventured into the site of the early hours of the 28th of December 1980, following the mysterious events in Rendlesham Forest. Armed with an AN-PDR-27, a military radiation survey meter, they conducted thorough investigations. Their readings in the triangle of depressions in the surrounding area revealed a slightly elevated radiation level of 0.07 per hour, compared to the background levels of 0.03 to 0.04 per hour detected elsewhere. Additionally, they detected a similar brief increase in radiation half a mile away from the landing site. Following the reports from his men, Colonel Conrad conducted a brief investigation the following morning. He ventured into the forest and purportedly located the triangle pattern on the ground that he attributed to the triangle legs of the craft described by his personnel. Conrad acknowledged interviewing 2 of the eyewitnesses and acknowledged, "Those lads saw something, but I don't know what it was." This account from Colonel Conrad provided a detailed perspective on the incident as perceived by military personnel directly involved. This underscored the extraordinary nature of the sightings and the puzzling behaviour of the unidentified craft described in the forest, adding to the ongoing mystery and the speculations surrounding the Rendlesham Forest incident. Throughout the investigation, Holt meticulously documented the unfolding events on a microcassette recorder, capturing their observations and their measurements. These recorded findings added a scientific dimension to the perplexing phenomena experienced in the forest, sparking further debate and speculation about the nature of what transpired in that enigmatic December night. During their investigation, while using the AN-PDR-27 to measure radiation levels in the Rendlesham Forest on the 28th of December 1980, a compelling sighting added to the intrigue. Across the field to the east, aligned with the farmhouse, and reminiscent of the first night's events, witnesses observed a flashing red light. This sighting coincided with the direction of where the Orfordness lighthouse stood visible further to the east, sharing the same line of sight. The presence of the lighthouse, known for its sweeping beams visible in the area, raised questions about the unusual lights and phenomena witnessed in the forest. The flashing red light observed during the investigation added a layer of complexity, hinting at a possible natural or man-made sources contributing to the mysterious events perceived by the servicemen that night. These observations continued to blur the lines between the extraordinary and the explainable, leaving the true nature of the Rendlesham Forest incident shrouded in speculation and debate. The Orfordness lighthouse, often pointed to by skeptics as the source of the flashing light witnessed by the airmen, is situated approximately 5 miles or 8 kilometres further east along the same line of sight as the edge of the Rendlesham Forest. During the events of December 1980, it was renowned as one of the brightest lighthouses in the United Kingdom. Its prominent position and powerful beacon made it a plausible explanation for the flashing lights observed in the direction of the coast, visible from the forest where the events unfolded. The lighthouse's role in potentially contributing to the visual phenomena witnessed by the military personnel adds a layer of rational explanation amidst the mystery surrounding the Rendlesham Forest incident. Later, as documented in Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt's memo, the intrigue deepened with the sighting of 3 star-like lights in the sky, Two of these lights appeared to the north, whilst one was situated to the south, all approximately 10 degrees above the horizon. According to Holt's account, the brightest among them hovered for an extended period, estimated at 2 to 3 hours, intermittently emitting beams of light towards the ground. Astronomers later interpreted these star-like lights as bright stars, providing a rational explanation to their celestial appearance. However, the duration and the behaviour of the brightest light remained a point of fascination and discussion among those involved in the investigation. The sighting added a cosmic element to the unfolding events at the Rendlesham Forest, blending the terrestrial with the celestial in a narrative that continued to captivate imaginations and fuel speculation about what truly occurred during those enigmatic December nights. The first publicly available piece of primary evidence related to the Rendlesham Forest incident was the memorandum written by Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt to the Ministry of Defence, known as the Holt Memo. This document was released under the US Freedom of Information Act in 1983, despite not being classified. Dated the 13th of January 1981, it titled Unexplained Lights. The memo detailed the events witnessed by Holt and his team, describing mysterious lights and activities observed in the Rendlesham Forest. The memo's release sparked significant interest and debate, and it provided an official account of what occurred during those nights in December 1980. David Clark, a consultant to the National Archives, investigated the background to the Holt memo and its reception at the MOD. His findings suggested a minimal investigation by the MOD into the incident, with no substantial evidence to further reports from either the USAF or the UK authorities beyond Holt's memo. This raised questions about the thoroughness of the investigation and the handling of potential significant events. Holt himself has publicly stated his belief that the events he witnessed constituted to an extraterrestrial event, suggesting a cover-up thereafter. His perspective, along with the contents of the Holt memo, continues to fuel speculation and ongoing investigation into one of the most enduring mysteries in UFO and military history. A 1983 Omni article recounts details provided by Colonel Ted Conrad, the base commander during the Rendlesham Forest incident. According to Conrad, 5 Air Force policemen initially spotted lights that they mistook for a small plane descending into the forest. 2 of these men proceeded on foot to investigate further and encountered a large tripod-mounted craft in the forest. Conrad described the craft as lacking windows, but adorned with red and blue lights. Whenever the men approached within 50 yards of the object, Conrad claimed it would levitate about 6 feet off the ground and move away. They reportedly tracked the craft for nearly an hour through the woods and across the field until it suddenly departed at phenomenal speed. In 1984, Colonel Sam Morgan, who had assumed the role after Ted Conrad, released a copy of what would famously be known as the Holt tape to UFO researchers. This tape captures real-time Lieutenant Colonel Holt's investigation into Rendlesham Forest, documenting his activities, such as taking radiation readings, observing the flashing lights between the trees, and encountering the starlight objects that hovered and twinkled in the sky. Researcher Ian Ridpath transcribed the contents of the Holt tape, providing UFO enthusiasts and skeptics alike with access to an audio download and detailed analysis of the contents. This resource became pivotal in understanding the sequence of events as perceived by Holt and his team during those pivotal nights in December 1980. The release of the Holt tape added another layer of documentation to the Rendlesham Forest incident, offering a first-hand account of what continues to be scrutinised and debated within the realms of ufology and military investigations. Its availability has ensured that the events of these mysterious nights remain a subject of ongoing fascination and inquiry. In 1997, Scottish researcher James Easton uncovered the original witness statements from the individuals involved in the sightings on the first night of the forest incident. One of the witnesses, Ed Cabersag, described in his statement that initially they believed the lights they were seeing originated from beyond the forest. As they traversed through the wooded area, they perceived a glowing source they initially mistook for a beacon light, only to discover upon closer inspection that it was actually an illuminated farmhouse. Eventually, from a vantage point, they realised that what they had been pursuing was merely a distant beacon light. Another participant, John Burroughs, corroborated this account in his statement. He recounted that they initially spotted the beacon moving around and decided to follow it. They tracked it approximately 2 miles, about 3 kilometres, before discerning that source of light was emanating from a lighthouse. These statements provided a more grounded perspective on the events of that night, suggesting the initial perceptions of extraordinary lights may have been influenced by natural or man-made sources, such as a beacon and lighthouse. The accounts from Cabersag and Burroughs offered an alternative explanation to the more sensationalised reports, adding context to the observations made during the early stages of the Rendlesham Forest incident. The reported noises described by John Burroughs, resembling a woman screaming and the sounds of farm animals making a commotion during the initial night of the Rendlesham Forest incident, as well as during Holt's subsequent investigation 2 nights later, have prompted various interpretations. One plausible explanation for these noises could be attributed to the presence of muntjac deer in the forest. Muntjacs are known for their distinctive and loud bark-like calls, which can resemble a woman's scream, especially when they are alarmed or disturbed. These calls are particularly shrill and can echo through the forest, potentially creating an eerie atmosphere and contributing to the unsettling experiences reported by the witnesses. Given the nocturnal nature of muntjac deer and their presence in Rendlesham Forest, it is plausible that their vocalizations could have been mistaken for more mysterious or paranormal sounds during the tense and heightened moments of the incident. This natural explanation aligns with the behaviour and characteristics of muntjac deer and proves a rational perspective on the reported noises associated with the Rendlesham Forest incident. In a letter dated the 28th of July 1999, Inspector Mike Topliss highlighted an intriguing detail. One of the police constables had responded to the scene on that fateful night returned to the site in daylight, driven by the lingering doubts. Topliss recounted there was nothing to be seen and he remains unconvinced that the occurrence was genuine. He elaborated further, mentioning that the immediate area had been illuminated by powerful beams from the landing beacon at RAF Brentwaters and the Orfordness Lighthouse. Topliss drew from personal experience, noting how these lights, especially in certain weather and cloud conditions, can create perplexing visual effects. In June 2010, retired Colonel Holt signed a notarized affidavit where he reinstated his summary of the events that transpired during the Rendlesham Forest incident. Importantly, he stated his belief that the event involved extraterrestrial phenomena and that it has been concealed by both the UK and the US authorities. This affidavit represented a significant reaffirmation of Holt's stance on the incident, aligning with his previous public statement regarding the nature of what he and others witnessed. However, skeptics have pointed out contradictions between Holt's affidavit and the factual details recorded at the time in his original memo and tape recordings. These contradictions primarily revolve around discrepancies in timelines, observations, and interpretations of events. Skeptics argue that discrepancies between Holt's contemporaneous records and his later assertions raise doubts about the consistency and reliability of his interpretations over time. The notarized affidavit by Holt in 2010 added another layer of complexity and controversy to the ongoing debate surrounding the Rendlesham Forest. It continues to be a focal point for discussions among UFO researchers, skeptics, and those intrigued by the enduring mystery of what transpired in the secluded forest in December 1980. This area beyond the base runway became an epicenter of reported sightings and activities linked to the incident. Accounts suggest that additional mysterious events unfolded in and around Capel Green, contributing to the lore and the speculation surrounding what transpired during the pivotal nights in December 1980. The Rendlesham Forest incident generated speculation about a cover-up. Fueled by the belief that both the United States and the British governments were suppressing information about unidentified flying objects, UFOs. This perception was bolstered by expectations of substantial Ministry of Defence file on the incident. However, when the file was eventually released in 2001, it largely comprised of internal correspondence and responses to public inquiries, rather than substantive investigative reports. The released documents revealed a lack of in-depth investigation by the MOD, consistent with their earlier stance that they did not consider the case to be one of significant concern. This stance was reinforced by an explanation provided by the Defence Minister, Lord Trafalgar, included in the released files, which outlined reasons for the MOD's limited involvement and lack of further inquiry into the incident. The revelation of the MOD's minimal investigation disappointed those who expected comprehensive scrutiny of the Rendlesham Forest incident. It also underscored perceptions of government disinterest or dismissal of UFO-related phenomena, contributing to the ongoing skepticism and conspiracy theories surrounding official responses to such incidents.